brought to you by Infineon. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Thursday, June 27th, 2024, and I have Shantanu Bhalerao, the Vice President of Bluetooth at Infineon with me. We're going to talk about Bluetooth, but not what you think. Hi, Shantanu, how are you?
Hi, Miriam. I'm great. Nice to be joining you and looking forward to talking more about Bluetooth.
Fantastic. So listen, my audience obviously uses Bluetooth. Everybody uses Bluetooth, but my audience, knows a little more than the average audience. But Infineon provides chips and solutions around these chips to major manufacturers of, primarily the automotive field, but also industrial and all kinds of area. I've had Infineon on the podcast many times. Guests talk about all kinds of different technologies. We talked about decarbonization, digitalization, and so obviously, I was very excited when I got the opportunity to speak with a Bluetooth guru because you know what? Bluetooth never gets any love from anyone, right? It's almost ambient at this point. So, first of all, do you have any thoughts about that to start? You're probably well invested in this.
That's right. I think Bluetooth is very ambient. So is Wi-Fi. I think recently I was reading something which said there's about 40 to 50 connected devices in everyone's home. So that just constitutes the smart home. Everyone's familiar with Bluetooth for AirPods, earbuds, basically wire replacement for audio. But this general concept of wire replacement is going in newer fields, whether it's cars, whether it's industrial space, and there will be more over time. And that's what we are really excited about here at Infineon.
Of course. And I'm excited to find out more. So can you give us some examples of applications today that are not something our audience is familiar with, that is in use right now by some of your customers that are kind of cool and different?
Right. So if you think about this wire replacement concept, that will continue to move in newer and newer fields. So one example is instead of medical patches. So these are patches that are measuring either glucose or in the future, we believe will measure other things like lactate for athletes. And it will basically send that measurement to a smartphone. We have smart stethoscopes, which are basically no longer connected. We will have access to cars. So you walk to a car, the door automatically opens. Some of the high-end cars have that today, but that will continue to proliferate and more cars will have it. Think about entertainment and gaming, right? Like we recognize that many of the gaming mice and keyboards are wired today. More and more of those will become Bluetooth in the future. And same for entertainment in a car. So there's a lot of move towards rear car seat entertainment. So for passengers sitting in the back, can they be having a screen and doing some kind of gaming? Those are just a lot of examples,
Yeah, and let's not forget also we're starting to see Bluetooth appear on airplane infotainment systems now. United Airlines has this on some of their MAX aircraft. I've seen that. I've used it. It's really great. And you gave a good example. I've been driving Teslas for 6 years and I've been using Bluetooth without ultra wideband, just the regular stuff to connect to my car and unlock it as soon as I walk up to it. You give other good examples around gaming. As the bandwidth and latency improve on Bluetooth, we're able to do things like lossless audio, and gaming is obviously extremely latency dependent. That's why they use wired devices right now primarily. Same with me when I edit audio for this podcast, or my producer does, we can't really use like Bluetooth because it's still too much latency for me to, exactly, like if I'm synchronizing video and audio, I need to use a wired system. So I hope we get to a point one day soon where all of this is a non-issue, because if latency gets below 1 millisecond or so for me, 10 is, most people can't hear much less than 10, but for the kind of synchronization I'm talking about, professional level, it'd be lovely to see something in the 1 milliseconds. So do you think this is realistic? And can you tell us a little more, like, in-car infotainment, obviously, we've had Bluetooth for rear passengers for a while now. I think Mercedes has been doing it for a while and others as well. But do you think we'll eventually get to a point where, like it's going to be used in the factory in some way, or even, it gets to be cheaper to put and reliable enough to put some sort of wireless infrastructure in a vehicle to connect a sensor to a computer in a mission critical way? Do you think we're heading in that direction? Because, wiring weighs and it's complicated to install and expensive. We've seen what vehicles like Cybertruck have brought to the table with radically new network topology that reduce wiring and weight and cost and complication of installation, 48-volt systems that reduce further the amount of weight, et cetera, et cetera. So, obviously in automotive, that's been a big deal. Tell us where we're going in that sense. I'm kind of wanting to feel out, some other weird applications we didn't think of.
I think those are all great examples you touched upon. And the wire replacement trend, Bluetooth isn't new. It's been there 25 years. It was mainly meant for wire replacement. And you cited some examples where that hasn't happened yet, including, earphones or quality of audio or low latency, whether for audio or for gaming. I think the Bluetooth standard is moving towards, and in the future will do a sub 1 millisecond latency. In fact, some of our latest products do support that type of feature. For gaming, I think audio is a bit further out. So the Bluetooth standards body is working, and Infineon is a key part of that, where we are moving similar to Wi-Fi to higher bands. So Wi-Fi moved from 2.4 gigahertz to also 5 and 6, 5 gigahertz, 6 gigahertz type of bands. So Bluetooth will move there. Bluetooth is also adding a higher data rate option. So right now it supports 1 and 2 Mbps. It will support 4, 6, 8 type of Mbps. All of this is towards those specific uses around gaming as well as audio that you referred to. In terms of cars, I think you're right. Removing wires reduces weight. And that is going to be a key driver, especially when it comes to electric vehicles. So we believe, and we are actively driving the adoption of Bluetooth for replacing wires in a battery management system. So think of your Tesla, I own a Tesla as well. Currently, it's a bunch of battery packs that are all wired. They have to be monitored for state of charge, state of health. It's safety critical application. It takes a lot of manual labor to assemble those wires, and it weighs a lot. And then if you had to reuse what we call the second life of a battery pack, which means after it's done being used in a car, we want those battery packs to be removed.
Energy storage solutions, etc.
Energy storage solutions, exactly. So that is a second life reuse, which again goes towards sustainability and decarbonization goal that both EVs have, and here at Infineon we believe in. So for all of these use cases, removing those wires for monitoring the battery and doing Bluetooth instead will be a key driver. And finally, on the factory. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I never thought BMS would be, but it's a really good example. You've got a power source there. You never have to worry about power. And even if the battery is very low, you still have enough energy to fire up that Bluetooth module, and you can still send information, to whatever system is designed to read it, right? That's really brilliant. Any other thing that would really surprise me like that?
Well, even in factories, right? Or we are looking at industrial warehouse robots communicating, and if they don't need very high bandwidth, they are communicating with Bluetooth. A recent data point, and this will be quite interesting, is we do some tests in big warehouses. Think like big warehouse stores. And we can basically cover the entire warehouse store between point-to-point connection using coded PHY or the long-range option of Bluetooth. So that opens up, think of swarm of industrial robots moving boxes, and they're communicating with Bluetooth through some central hub. So that's the industrial angle that we believe in.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm not surprised there's some industrial application. I wasn't quite sure what they would be, right? Because it's like also, let's talk about this, because I think you can help us kind of like compartmentalize things a little better. Like it's hard for me to explain to people that with our Teslas, we've been able to use our smartphones with just basic Bluetooth as a key 90% reliably, because everybody's like, well, we're waiting. Like when I talk to like BMW and Mercedes and these, other car makers, they're like, we're waiting for ultra wideband UWB to be more prevalent. I'm like, why? Like Tesla's been showing you how to do it with Bluetooth for 6 years, more than that. Why are you waiting? For what are you waiting? And so maybe you can explain, like, not, Nick, I think the audience knows the difference between ultra wideband and 5G and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but how, as a, engineer creating these solutions for your customers, your B2B customers at Infineon, do you pick the right solution? How do you pick Bluetooth versus Wi-Fi? Or say Wi-Fi 6 versus Wi-Fi 7, ultra wideband versus 5G. There's private 5G networks out there in use for robots, right? So I'm just trying to figure that out. Maybe you can clarify. I know it's a little bit outside of the Bluetooth
this is actually a great question.
Awesome.
This is a great question.
Let's go.
So let's go. Yeah. So most wireless technologies find certain use cases and they are driven by an anchor. So if you think about Wi-Fi, the anchor is a router or an access point. Everyone's home has it. Once you have that router, now you can start connecting newer things to it, whether it's a smart door lock, whether it's a new security camera, and so on. The key piece with Wi-Fi is it's used for applications which either need long range or need high data throughput. So a video camera is a perfect use case for Wi-Fi. Then for Bluetooth, it's really about things that need to connect to the anchor, which is a smartphone. So if you have a smartphone, you want to connect it to a medical patch, right? Something like a continuous glucose monitor.
Exactly.
Bluetooth is a great fit. So anchor point is a key determinant. Similarly for UWB or ultra wideband, right now, some smartphones support it. We believe more will support in the future. It's very well suited for the use case of ranging or distance. But we think of UWB as a complementary thing to Bluetooth.
Okay.
So even the car makers who are using ultra wideband, they are also using Bluetooth for determining how far someone is from a car. So the use case is someone walks to the car. When they are several meters away, Bluetooth wakes the car up. And then when you're very close to the car, ultra wideband is very accurate, centimeter accuracy. So it can tell, hey, are you in front of the front door or the rear passenger door and so on. Bluetooth will come with a new standard release called channel sounding sometime next year, which will also give centimeter level accuracy for Bluetooth applications.
Wow.
So in that case,
cool.
Bluetooth and UWB or ultra wideband are very complementary. So one vector is, as I mentioned, anchor point, whether it's router or you want connection to a smartphone. The other vector is how do you power the device? So typically Wi-Fi, it's high bandwidth, but takes more power. So you need mains power, or you need something which is a rechargeable battery. While Bluetooth can work on a coin cell battery or AA, AAA battery for years. So something like a temperature sensor, something like a patch that you wear that's giving you glucose for 14 days, it's ideally suited for Bluetooth. Versus Wi-Fi is great for a rechargeable battery used for a camera, where you need high bandwidth. UWB is somewhere in between power for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And the main key use case for ultra wideband is very accurate and secure distance. But you're right, car makers like Tesla are doing car access with Bluetooth. In the future, we believe many car makers will choose the complementary technologies between Bluetooth and ultra wideband. Infineon supports both, and we work with our customers to make the right choice or the right pick.
Right. And of course, we also should mention quickly as a point of reference for the audience that ultra wideband is used today particularly well by Apple with the Find Me network, with the AirTags and other things like that. So keep that in mind. It's, as you said, complementary to Bluetooth. I think we should also have a little quick aside about NFC, right? RFID specifically does allow very slow bitrate communication over microamps. I mean, like we're
Yeah.
literally, you can power the device with radio waves and, and have it transmit some data. So how does that fit in, or does that even fit into your purview
It,
with
yeah,
Bluetooth?
yeah, it
Because it's
fits
used
in.
for pairing, right? It was
Right,
initially, at least.
right. So it is NFC is again a complementary technology to Bluetooth. You brought up a very good use case, which is pairing. And we call it out of band pairing because it's not using the same channels or same frequency range. A typical use case is putting NFC along with Bluetooth for anything which needs a wake up. So think of a medical patch that sits on the shelf for months or years. It's sitting there. Then you buy it, you open the box, you use NFC to open it, to start it up, and then it converts to Bluetooth, and then it's transmitting data at a higher bandwidth to the phone. Similarly, the car access application, where you use a phone to walk and open a door, basically think of it as Bluetooth for ranging at a longer distance, Bluetooth channel sounding, or UWB or ultra wideband for close distance or close proximity opening of the right door. And if your phone is dead, using NFC to open the door, right?
Right, exactly.
So that's still the fallback mechanism. So they are all complementary. We
Very
also
cool.
see use cases of wearables like a smart ring. So we power various smart rings where our Bluetooth chip is the main chip driving the smart ring. And the smart ring can also have a secure element. So instead of having a smartwatch, you could be wearing a smart ring. My ring is dumb,
And pay,
but
yeah.
yeah, and pay, right?
Mhm.
So I think some very, very cool use cases.
But I really liked your use case around having a product on the shelf that's powered maybe by a battery that's triggered, turned on by, an RFID NFC type. It's like the reverse of an e-fuse almost. The fuse is closed. So you close the circuit with the NFC tag, basically enabling the battery, and boom, off you go.
Right,
Right now you have your
right,
14 days of continuous glucose monitoring, right?
right.
Yeah, very cool. Didn't think of that. So I'd like to give us a kind of a quick overview where you think you're going with Bluetooth at Infineon. What do you think is the evolution of Bluetooth in terms of where we're going for new applications? You've talked a little bit about it, but what are your customers asking you for, and what are the problems that you're trying to solve right now?
Right. All great questions. I think Infineon is a leader in IoT. For IoT, we do the whole spectrum. So we do sensing, we do compute. So there is edge AI that we do with our products. And then we connect through Wi-Fi, we discuss Bluetooth, ultra wideband, NFC, all of the above. In terms of Bluetooth, we see this wire replacement trend going from consumer application to more medical type of application. So whether those are patches for measuring glucose in the future for sports athletes measuring lactate, just this overall consumerization of medical field where everyone
Interesting, yeah.
wants to know more, measure more. This knowing and measuring will move to lactate. It will move to new things like patches that help you cure migraine pain. All
I
right.
see. Yep.
So some of those are already coming up. So we see a lot of customers trying to move towards, say, glucose monitoring, which will last instead of 14 days. Could it last for a month? Could it last for 2 months? Could it work without a battery? Right? Could it just do ambient sensing
Or
or
just
ambient
motion, right?
energy? Yeah,
Yeah, using
motion
kinetic energy.
or
Yeah. Mhm.
kinetic energy or solar or ambient light. Then we see a lot of interest in industrial, where can we have industrial robots that are just moving around and doing stuff in very intelligent way using edge AI. And finally, in the car, right? I mentioned smart home today is about 40 to 50 connected devices. We believe that cars in the future will have about 20 to 30 Bluetooth chips per car. So there is entertainment, there is rear
I
seat
believe it.
entertainment and gaming.
Yep.
There is wireless battery management. There is car access or using your phone to open the car. There is TPMS, and there
I was
will
gonna
be
say,
more.
yeah, TPMS is ripe for that, right?
Yes, TPMS is right for that. I think there's lot of improvements to be done in TPMS in the sense that I shouldn't have to carry a separate device to measure the tire pressure. It should be updated automatically.
And that's not just tire pressure. It should be tire temperature. There's all kinds of other conditions you can measure. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Infineon's focused on sustainability, digitalization. And I think, it's important to see like that BMS example for me is really what nails it. I think like you're looking at like the perfect storm, right? It's an application that it kind of makes sense once you think about it, but it's actually, really good in terms of, it's reducing wiring, reducing complexity. The cost of Bluetooth chip is probably cheaper than the cost of copper wiring at this point, almost, right? So I think I'm excited to see where you guys take this next.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where we take this next as well. And I'm sure that, engineers are creative, whether at Infineon or at our customers and partners, and we'll come up with more and more use cases, whether they are towards sustainability or whether they are towards digitalization with lossless audio and gaming and new medical patches. I'm excited. I think this is going to be an interesting field.
I'm excited too. Thanks so much, Shantanu, for being on the show. I really appreciate your insight. This was a really fantastic conversation. Love to have you back on some point in the future. And thanks again for being here this time.
Thanks, Miriam. I had a blast and looking forward to being back again.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
And now that we know everything about Bluetooth, we're back with Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile, Captain Two Phones. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Miriam. Thanks for having me back. I'm great. It's Razr time.
We're in New York today because Brooklyn, to be speaking, your neighborhood, kind of.
It is. It's my office's neighborhood. It used to be my neighborhood, and now it's not.
And we're here because Moto launched a bunch of Razrs.
Hot pink Razrs.
All right, Razrs. Here they are.
I like that we have matching Razrs.
You have the plus. The plus is the one on the left for me here. And for those of you watching on Patreon, and this one is the minus or the regular.
Not that you
plus,
could tell.
Regular.
Much harder to tell the difference this year between the two.
It is. And actually, let's start with that. Because this actually segues into something really interesting. We'll elaborate in a second, but I kind of feel like because of the camera changes and the front cover screen changes, that this is kind of like the Razr Plus from last year, especially if you look at the specs, the Dimensity on there and stuff.
Yeah, so they've got MediaTek in there, which adds some flexibility on pricing, but also I asked specifically if that cover screen was just the recycled same component, and it's the same exact one.
I checked.
And I'm like, great, good job.
Yeah, good
Leverage
job.
the supply chain.
Supply chain, right?
Yeah. So question though, do you feel like there's not enough differentiating between these two? I wouldn't want to market these against each other because I think last year the minus was easier to sell as like look, this is a minimalist phone. You're going to close it up and you're not going to want to look at it.
The deal here is that this is probably the non-plus is probably the better deal.
$699, right?
It's $300 less, and you're essentially getting last year's Razr Plus.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. But and you are also getting one camera that we may agree on. We may disagree on.
Well, let's talk about that because let's actually let's go through the specs real quick so people know why we're making these judgments.
Sure.
Okay.
Good call.
So the big news, I think, is that the Plus has a 4-inch display, and for those of you watching on Patreon, covers the entire front. Like that's technically a pretty tour de force. I mean, and look at the bezels.
I can hear the people already saying like, wait, didn't last year's cover most of the front? No, that's all you guys said. But like, but it did. And it was huge. But now when you see that like 1/2-inch diameter strip that they've been able to delete from the top, it's like, oh, that is quite a difference.
Bring up Google News.
Yeah.
That's really obvious.
You get a whole extra column.
You get an extra column.
Of headline.
There you go.
Also, it gives enough room for the keyboard. When you deploy the keyboard, it kind of like pops up into that's a swear word.
Oops.
We're allowed to swear on this show, aren't we? But like it pops up into place in the middle of the keyboard, like in the middle of the screen automatically.
Yeah.
So they've like done intelligent things with the added space. So I think it's a good move. I don't know what they're going to do next year. There's no more space to expand.
They're going to add a third camera, right?
I would hope so.
Anyway, so let's talk about specs real quick. So the chassis is almost identical in size and weight as last year. They've completely redone the hinge, right?
Yes.
Well, what did they say about it? It was easier to open and close.
Here's the thing. If you had this in your hand last year, the Razr and the Flip 5 in your hand, in your other hand, the Samsung hinge felt so much smoother.
This does feel smoother, doesn't it?
Now they've finally refined it. They've taken all the lumps out and they've reduced the size of the protrusion of the hinge. It's called the spine, I think, by like quite a lot. So the phone is just more svelte. and poses a little bit more
than
easily.
that, it also supposedly is lighter and more robust.
Yeah.
There's less side by side too, like
wiggle when it's closed. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. They've really tightened some of the tolerances up. They've done a nice job.
Feels very pro.
It feels great. Do you feel, this doesn't matter, but do you feel like it's a little more top heavy than last year? Because as I was typing, I was
haven't noticed yet because I haven't had a chance to reuse it yet.
Got it.
Like I've mostly done photos and held it in my hand, but like actually using the software, man.
Well, I've got some things to tell you about the software then, but go ahead. Let's keep going with specs.
I've mostly used the cover screen because I knew that a lot of those changes were on the cover screen.
Yes.
So in terms of specs, so what I'm excited about on the Plus is Snapdragon 8S Gen 3, right? So what that means is we're getting essentially a gaming capable chip, which last year the 8 Plus Gen 1 wasn't.
I think it was last year, the 8 Plus Gen 1, when the Razr was released, was like one generation behind. Was that right? And this is now like
up to date. It's not the top tier premium flagship chip. It's just below that.
It was crazy. This is the first time we've had this conversation where I didn't know what that was. I've lost track completely of what these chips are, how these are tiered.
For the audience, in case they're lost too, it's really easy. Think of you have a pot on the stove and you put some Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in there and some Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in there. Oh. And that's how you end up with the 8S Gen 3.
A delightful little stew.
So like you get mostly the CPU and stuff from the 8 Gen 2, I think, and then the NPU and stuff for the 8 Gen 3.
Are you happy with that? Or are you concerned about any?
I'm happy with that.
Because, sometimes, look, with foldables, the thing is like we have tolerances rather much tighter in terms of space. You don't have as much space to play with, right? You don't have as much thermal expansion.
That's the thing. The thermal benefits of the 8 Gen 2 are actually better than 8 Gen 3.
Okay.
8 Gen 3 is a bit of a hog on power.
So then is this...
So this is better.
This is
the 8S Gen 3 is going to be better for thermals.
That's good.
Better for efficiency, which is why the batteries, can have to be small on folding phones.
Right.
Now, what's interesting about this guy,
the small one,
the Razr 2024, is that it has a Dimensity 7300X. That chip just literally came out 2 weeks ago or something.
Is it that new?
Yeah, it's the best mid-range chip they make. So
I'm glad to hear that. It should beat the performance of last year's Snapdragon. What was that? What did they put in it? Snapdragon 7 Gen 1?
It was terrible.
It was like old when they rolled it out. Yeah.
It was bad.
So
basically, this is also gaming capable. Not like 8S Gen 3 gaming capable, but pretty close.
Good.
And then storage is 256 on both. I think for the price, that's very good.
I think so too.
We also get 12 gigs of RAM on the big guy, the Plus, and 8 gigs of RAM on the regular. Also note that the flagship model gets all the goodies. Like it gets LPDDR5X for RAM. It gets UFS 4 for storage.
They fixed a problem last year with the wireless charging. It's not the slow 5 watt anymore. We got 15 watt on both.
You get 45 watt charging now on the Plus and 30 on the regular.
For wired, right? And you get reverse wireless charging on the Plus.
Strangely not on the Minus.
I asked about that. I was like, what's the deal? Did you have to use a different component? Like whatever. I asked if it was a silicon limitation. And he said, no, it was something else, but he would look into it and get back to me.
So of course. They always have to look into it.
No, I got a bunch of great answers, but that was one. He's like, I actually don't know.
So the other thing to keep in mind, batteries are slightly better, at least on the Razr Plus, 4,000 versus 3,800 last year.
Right.
And then 4,200 is the same as last year.
Yeah, I was going to say. So same deal. The last one.
Yeah, they're not very different.
The Junior is a little bit bigger in terms of the battery. Probably, last year it was because the processor wasn't as efficient. So
correct.
I think those kind of evened out.
Also, in terms of size, they're so close. Like we're talking millimeters.
Yep.
The Razr regular is a little thicker, but the camera bump is more pronounced on the Plus this year.
Yeah.
So, you kind of gain some, you lose some. You still get stereo speakers. You still get the fingerprint sensor on the power lock key, which you can now program so that you can scroll your notifications up and down, which I need to turn on.
Thank you, Adam Dowd, for calling that out. I didn't realize that.
And scroll down to use it for
zooming and maps, and
maps
photos and stuff. You're literally just sliding your thumb on the power button.
And a lot of back-mounted capacitive fingerprint sensors were like that back in the day.
LG used to do it. Remember LG G8, G7, G8? It was
great.
Yeah, it was great.
Good times.
They still have not, speaking of back-mounted things, they still have not put a dimple. They've not given us the dimple back.
You know what's odd,
but it's nice.
Is yours like that too, where it's kind of missing a thing?
Just going to ask you this.
I'm going to show the crowd here. This is the Razr Plus in, what's that color?
This is hot pink.
Hot pink. And hot pink is the Razr. The A of the Razr is missing the vegan leather, and it's obvious.
I don't know if it's missing it so much as they just didn't color match the material right. Is it actually missing?
It's missing. If you touch it, there's a dimple there.
It's shallow. Yeah. We got to ask about that because
I bet you if they put it in, it would fall off. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no adhesion there.
You can figure out a glue, right?
China will figure out a glue.
Yeah, come on.
It's Lenovo. They can figure this out.
It's a solvable problem.
Anyway.
Oh, we haven't talked about the materials. They really went crazy on the material
glass
selection
on the back
here.
now, which is
no
great.
glass on the back, which is fantastic. Overdue,
suede
right?
For this
vegan suede specifically. You know what the first thing they said to me when they introduced the suede was? Whoever the demo person was, she was just like,
"This was made for Michael Fisher."
Well, I mean, that didn't need to be said. No, but vegan suede, and we're very, very confident this will wear very well. And I'm like, guys, I can already see the discoloration on the rails.
I mean, look, it's been in my pocket for like a day and a half. It's already
this is going to pick up so much color, but it feels great. It's soft. And then you've got the regular stamped vegan leather kind of ones. The navy one, which is almost black. It's very...
It's got a racing stripe.
Got a racing stripe down the middle, which is cool. And then, is this the one? Can you turn this one on? Wait.
This
is the weird one.
Yeah, this is one this is sweet. I thought this was
So
vegan
we're talking
leather.
about the Razr Minus in specific colors.
Sand.
This is sand? This is gray.
Yeah, I know, but
when you run your finger over it, it's kind of like a chalkboard, kind of like the old HTC One X.
They were trying to do felt.
It feels like felt. It feels
and
like
my
a pool
producer
table.
Theo was like, no. They said it was suede. I'm like, oh.
But I mean, it feels like a pool table. It feels like felt for sure.
Does, right? Anyway, the finishes are really nice. So you get Victus on the glass parts, you get aluminum all the way around, and then you get this vegan stuff in the back. So no glass for the parts that are not screens,
right?
Which I think is fine. Really refined design, feels great in hand. You say it's a little top heavier.
I don't. When I was typing on it, it felt to me as though it was a little bit top heavy. But
because you're used to typing on clicks.
I was going to say,
little
this is the problem.
here.
See, they need to put a little aluminum in the bottom.
I know, like just anyway.
No, I don't know if that's actually true. It just felt like that to me last night. But when you do open it up, one of the first things I asked at the briefing was like, guys, last year my Razr Plus review unit number 1, I smashed by dropping it. That was my fault. But the second one, screen protector split down the middle, all on its own. Thing. Then I went on Reddit. Sure enough, it's a common thing.
Especially on the flips that Samsung make.
Well, but those different failure modes, those bubble at the edges. And then you're like, oh, you're going to pull that off. The Motorola ones crack. There's like a hairline crack that goes down the middle. It doesn't always affect the display. Like for me, it didn't affect the display at all, but it's annoying. You're running your thumb over it.
Plus, you can't just go to the Samsung store and get them replace the screen protector in 10 minutes.
Do you want to hear my experience with that? It will take me 30 seconds.
Go for it. I mean, tangents are welcome. If you want to do a 30-minute podcast about it.
Okay. I called up Motorola and I said, hey guys, the service and repair thing, I'm just a regular customer. I'm not a blogger or whatever, but I've got a Razr and it's got a screen protector that's cracked. I'd like to get it replaced. They're like, no problem. We'll make you an appointment at YouBreak-iFix. There's one right around the corner from you.
YouBreak-iFix.
Great. Okay, sounds good. That's awesome. I show up at YouBreak-iFix. Can you guess what happened?
They had no idea what was going on.
They were like, we never heard of you. Never seen that phone before. We don't even carry products.
That phone doesn't exist.
I leave the store before I start, because it's not their fault, but I'm impatient.
Well, you start losing your mind.
I'm cantankerous. Yes. So I went outside and yelled at my phone for a lot. You'll see that in my Razr video. Oh, everything's broken. I'm old. And I went back inside and I said, hi, I'm sorry. I was just here. And then they explained to me that, oh, wait, we did find your appointment. It just Motorola called and didn't make the right kind of appointment. So they have to make a proper appointment so that we can custom order the screen protector because we didn't stock it.
Oh, of course. And how long did that take? 5 months?
I don't know. I went back home. I SIM swapped into the Flip 5. I didn't think about it again.
And you've never touched it since.
Yeah, and it bums me out because I prefer to carry the Razr unless I'm using the camera.
I just want it as an aside. Like, first world journalist, YouTube creator, TikToker problems, whatever you want to call us.
Is there a TikToker in this room?
No, but apparently that's the thing now. So it's really hard to change phones. Like it's really like you want us to try them all out personal. We can't. Like it's really hard. Like we change phones and we're stuck for a few months. Like you have to understand. Like we're not going back unless it
paired to this watch, and I don't want to repair, change the watch. And it's like,
if it breaks, we change. That's basically it breaks or something really exciting happens.
Yeah, I mean, I run out of attention span for the week, and I just swap because I just swap for fun sometimes. I mean, so I ended up back on the Pixel Fold for 6 months.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, oh wow, I love this.
I forgot it out the other day after our conversation in our chat room, and I was like, oh, this is so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
But you can only.
It's not open good, but it's good.
Yeah, but anyway, that's a different conversation.
Well, anyway, so Razrs, okay, specs. I think we did all the specs except the cameras because I think we really need to bitch about the cameras.
Let's talk about those cameras.
All right. Well, what do you think?
Look, when Oppo added a 2x telephoto to its Find N3.
That's 3 cameras, everyone.
The number one thing I said was like, guys, why didn't you put in a bigger one? Give us a 3x at least. That is what you need for distance. And Oppo said the same thing Motorola eventually would. Now this is for portraits. This is for better portrait photography.
But they did at least not remove the ultra wide.
Oppo did not remove the ultra wide. They gave us 3 cameras, which resulted, to be fair, on a big ugly wart on the front of the Oppo.
Fair.
Which you can't fit on this if you want this display to do what it does.
Why not put a 3rd camera right here?
I hope they do that next year.
Because look,
and, even better, bring back the chin, put the cameras on the chin. No, maybe that's a bad idea.
Fighting words. Look, the way I look at this is, first of all, let's get the audience cleared up. The Moto Razr minus the regular Razr has pretty much the same arrangement as before, a main camera and an ultra wide. The ultra wide is identical to last year's. The main is a new 50 megapixel with OIS. It's a really much nicer sensor than that kind of meh 64 they had last year, or the meh 12 that was on the Razr Plus last year. Now, the Plus gets the same awesome 50 megapixel main camera, but it drops the ultra wide. And my producer's on a Razr Plus right now from 2023, and they're mad about that.
I do not.
They're mad that they might have to go to the Razr minus.
Yeah, because how many times are you setting up a shot where you need that extra space the ultra wide provides? Half the time we're doing a selfie, we're holding the thing up like this. I'm like, no, I need the ultra wide.
I'm recording this video with the ultra wide on my Samsung here.
Ultra wide is this like under celebrated thing, and I feel like there hasn't been a lot of excitement in it for years, and that's why some manufacturers may be feeling like they can be like, you know what, take it out. No one talks about it. But when you need it, oh my God, there's nothing else can do. You're like, what are you gonna do? Put the thing on a selfie stick on an airplane?
I have so many things to rant about here. First of all, okay. Everything you said is 100% correct. Assuming for a second they couldn't do more than 2 cameras, I'm willing to go down that path. Okay, why not make the main the ultra wide, and then when you punch into the 1x, it's actually sensor cropping the middle of that, a nice 50 megapixel sensor.
That would be amazing,
right? And then 2x would actually be the actual telephoto that they have in there right now, as it is. Right?
Okay,
and then 4x would be the actual telephoto as well. So you now have an ultra wide essentially and a telephoto. You don't have a main anymore, but the main would be achieved by having a 2x crop on the ultra wide.
This is now what do you sacrifice then? You get lens distortion at the edges.
You do, but you could remedy this in software. And also ZTE has done something similar. Their main camera on their flagships right now, which, are unknown of in North America, even though they're sold and 5G compatible with the US. They have a 35 millimeter equivalent, so a 1.4, 1.3x main by default. The main camera is much narrower. And if you want to get the same 1x effect, you use the ultra wide. So they've got like ultra wide, a much narrower main, and then like a 3x telephoto. You see what I'm saying?
That I would prefer.
Me too.
Yeah.
But in this case, I could have done something like that too.
Yeah. And Motorola is not a stranger to making these kinds of optical experiments. Do you remember several years ago, they experimented with mounting camera sensors sideways in their phones?
Yeah,
because it was like pre-TikTok, and like they noticed you're holding your phone vertically, but what you really want to do is shoot in landscape, right? So they literally rotated a camera sensor by 90 degrees. Like Motorola is not, this kind of thinking is not unknown at Motorola.
The other thing that I could have done is, if they had done a slightly better 50 megapixel main sensor and then an ultra wide, they could probably achieve 4x with the same quality as that.
Because you just
crappy
crop the hell out of
2x.
it. Yeah.
And it's not OIS on the telephoto. So if you go out there with both phones side by side and you shoot at 2x, right? 2x on the Razr minus is just 2x crop on the 50 megapixel.
Right.
And then in good light, it makes no difference. You don't have to pixel bin. Right. And then you fire up that 2x telephoto on the Plus. Guess what? You can't get a steady shot. You can literally not get a steady shot. I tried it.
Assuming it goes to the telephoto, and it does.
Well, it does.
Automatically does.
Automatically.
As long as there's enough light. Yeah, I got it.
So then you're like, and then whereas the Razr minus is like rock solid because it's OIS on the main sensor.
Were you using action shot?
No.
Yeah, I hate that that's a separate mode.
Well,
it feels like
Motorola and Oppo do this too.
But I think with Motorola, it's like, look, let's talk about this again, as I'm sure we talked about it exactly this time last year. The camera on the Razr 23 it left a lot to be desired in stills, but in video, it was a just dumpster fire. Oh my God. So I have not tested it yet either. I have just tested whether when I wake up the camera after a while dormant, it gives me that like frame dropping, like, oh God, give me a second to catch up thing. It doesn't appear to so far, but we're a day in, so I don't know.
I'm going to show you something that's going to freak you out.
Good.
The audience will just have to hang on for a second here. Also, I want to say these both have the same main sensor, right?
And completely different camera sensor. Yeah. Oh, the processing.
Completely different processing.
Very different. Yeah.
So here.
I forgot. Sorry, I forgot this automatically starts recording when I'm in camcorder mode. I love that.
Okay, I would like to show you 2 photos taken with the main camera. On the left here is the plus, and on the right here is the regular. And look at this completely different shot.
That's wild. The
auto brightness doesn't seem to be working right
on different stuff here.
I'm going to show you guys in a second here, audience.
Tough to like. I mean, I got to see them on the same panel, you know. They do look.
So I've set the panels to be the same. The same basically in terms of the color rendition. But look at how
same displays.
Yes,
they're using the same display.
Exactly the same displays. This one on the Razr Plus refreshes at 165 hertz, and this one at 120, which is lower than 144 from last year.
That's a silicon limitation. They told me.
Correct. And then the other thing that's interesting, by the way, is that the night brightness is much higher, 3,000 nits now on both.
HDR plus peak brightness.
Yeah,
which
peak. But look, you can see blue sky in here, and you can just see like over.
Were these at the same moment? Were these at the same moment?
Same exact moment. Right after
that's crazy.
Another.
You can actually see blue sky for the people not watching.
That's what I'm saying.
You can actually see blue sky on one behind the clouds.
So that's what I'm saying. The image processing really shows the difference between how Qualcomm and MediaTek handles it. Assuming that a Moto, who's not a camera guru expert, is using the canned image processing from those.
Assuming so, but that was one of the things they called out as like in one of their, the inevitable AI segment of the presentation was like, we're doing some image processing.
Only the Plus has that AI stuff. But I honestly kind of like the MediaTek one better here.
Didn't Rich Woods share a selfie with us last night? And I felt the same way about his selfie. I was like, the minus looks like it rendered it better.
It's Theo and I looked at that, my producer, last night, and we noticed that basically what's happening is most of the shots are better on the look to me and feel to me better on the MediaTek, and then occasionally the Snapdragon really pulls ahead.
Yeah, and this is why I don't do camera comparisons anymore, because I'm just like, sometimes it's this way, sometimes it's that way, and it's like, it just.
But it's hard not to compare when the
stupid robot brain wants to do it. Yeah,
I had to try.
No, of course, I understand. I just want my video camera to work without it dropping frames all over the place, and I love this. Look, I will say this from a UI standpoint. When I first heard that, like, when you fired up the camera, if you bent the phone in half and turned it sideways, it would automatically start recording a video, I was like, that's gimmicky trash. But it's not. It's actually really handy. Really you very quickly get into a mode where you're like, oh, that's all I have to do. You don't even have to press record because it automatically starts recording. And you can force it to go in portrait as well. Yes, and your thumb is already right there when you're holding it, and so the bottom turns into this trackpad that you can zoom with. And you can double tap to do something. I forgot what it was. Oh, to start and stop recording. So it's actually really quite an ergonomic and fun solution. And I have to give them credit for that. Now, you know what I tried to do just then?
What?
You were too close and I tried to go to ultra wide, but I don't have an ultra wide camera. But this was for praise, this segment. So praise to the UI design. That's pretty cool.
Look, I mean, so this, I think, is a big question right now. Do you value the larger real estate on the front screen enough to sacrifice the ultra wide? Because I think in every other way, these phones are very, very similar, right? Like if you're gaming, obviously you want the Plus. But do you game on a folding phone?
Do you know what's crazy? No, I do not, but you can. You can game on the cover screen too.
Yes, you can.
Wait, why? No, there's one thing. There's one like killer app that like would make me get the Plus over the juniors. I think the asymmetry now bothers me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On the cover display.
Yeah, it's almost like they did it on purpose. It's really obvious. Last year, it's a little more hidden.
Well, last year the whole thing was leather. It looked like a wallet.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Wait, there's something we're forgetting. There's like a big killer app to the Plus.
Is there?
Oh, they probably confined some of their new AI stuff to the Plus.
Yeah, but none of that's really out yet, is it?
No, it's not. Oh, we can run Gemini in these phones now. That's a good thing.
It's actually on my cover screen here, as you can see.
Yes. So let's talk about that. I'll remember whatever that was. But like,
so you last year more than me, yeah.
Yeah. So last year, You know, when Motorola first did this giant cover display thing, it was almost like all the ways you could use that feature as a user, you kind of had to either stumble into, or it was clear that Motorola like had thought about it, but really hadn't had the time to optimize it. And now there's like a thing for desk mode. You know, when you open up the phone and put it down, and it's kind of like an old 80s alarm clock. There's a tent mode as well. You can enable these. And not only that, but they give you these custom like little wallpapers that cycle through themselves. It's like, hello, Moto. And the stupid cow. What's the cow's name? Moto Moo or something?
I don't know. I love the cow.
Yeah, the cow's great. But like you can actually do stuff in these modes now, which is crazy. The cover display supports always on display now.
I know.
Huge deal.
So, I mean, there's a lot of little features. Cover screen improvements that carry across are there's now a widget panel, which lets you put any Android widgets on there.
More than one of like you. So you don't need to have one widget per app like you did prior.
Put the translate and the YouTube Music on there.
Perfect.
Because the nice thing about YouTube Music is if YouTube Music is not running, you can actually trigger it to run from here without having to like go into the app.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Like if you don't have the default UI for music playback already on,
Speaking of which,
about that.
You want to talk about the media visualizer?
You tell them.
Oh my God. So remember Winamp, everyone? Yes, you do, because you're also old like me. And
here, I'm going to fire up some music, but you won't hear it.
Best thing.
I don't want, okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll shut up while you do that so you can mute the tunes.
I see if I can find where is the music visualizer?
Are you playing? I'm playing
something right now. It seems.
I don't know. I've only used it with Spotify.
There we go. Oh yeah, this is YouTube Music. Doesn't do much.
Here, let me try and do it. So, but if you're not watching, if you're listening, like God intended, the thing is that you get this.
Using
animated visualizer that kind of appears on the cover screen, and you can choose different versions of it. So one of them is a vintage like turntable spinning around the camera modules. One of them is a solar system like doing its thing, and it's very much like Windows Media Player in the XP days, where it's just like, just show me something weird and funky as it's going, or iTunes or whatever you want.
It really whips the llama's ass.
Yeah, nice. But see, of course, now that I'm trying to demo it,
it was a Winamp reference for the young ones out there.
Yeah, I switched it to
cassette.
Look at that. Yeah, isn't that fun?
Oh, that is good. See, you don't get that with YouTube Music because I'm one of those people.
Yeah, sorry. That's okay. That's all right. We don't judge you. We don't get tribal about our.
Look at it this way: I get YouTube Premium for free for in addition to the music habit I have, and then I have my whole family on it, which is two of us.
Disclosure: I'm in Spotify's tech influencer program, so I don't actually. Yeah.
See, I need to get connected there because I've got Spotify Premium right now because I got like a free code for 3 months so that I could use my Rabbit R1, right?
Oh, all right.
The thing that I haven't pulled out of a drawer in about a month.
This is about the size of a Rabbit R1. Speaking of which,
in fact, this is much better than our R1.
Yeah, so you can do a lot more.
This only costs like $400 more, so not bad.
Not bad.
Look,
new water resistance rating too. We didn't talk about that.
IPX8. Interesting. Went from IP52, which was dust ingress, to no dust ingress and much better water resistance.
I'm going to ask about that tonight. That is a question I didn't remember to file.
To get answers at the party tonight?
I expect to get more answers than I would when everybody was sober. Yeah. I was just looking at my notes on that. So IPX8 is interesting, but I look forward to finally like dunking a foldable underwater and pulling it up. I could have done it with a big Pixel Fold, but I didn't.
I don't trust Google.
I do trust Moto. I wonder if they've still got the board coating on it. You know that
last year
they did that on everything.
This year, so maybe I don't know. I think it's interesting. Overall, I think this is a serious upgrade. And if you consider inflation right now, the prices haven't changed.
Oh, fair point.
So, that's actually a solid thing, especially on the Razr Regular, because you're getting a Razr Plus from last year. Yeah. In fact, I bet you that MediaTek 7300X runs circles around the 8 Plus Gen 1. I bet you if I run benchmarks on that, I'll prove you that it's actually faster.
Be interested to see that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I don't recall having
progress.
Yeah, indeed.
But no, the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 is going to be walking circles around,
progress, like you said.
Yeah, progress.
Yeah.
But look, I like these phones. I wish... Moto, if you're listening, give us a Razr with 3 cameras the next year. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Would you sacrifice? What would you sacrifice? Because we have to. Let's play that game. What would you give up? Would you give up battery capacity? Would you give up screen size out here? What would you do?
I wouldn't give up screen size, but what I would love to see is either a larger main sensor that can be used as a telephoto. Like go back to the ultra
so
wide.
you're talking about doing the
like not larger, but larger pixels. Right now it's a 50 megapixel main sensor OIS, but the pixels are only 0.7 micron.
Yeah.
So it's a small sensor, and I think it's because they don't have a lot of real estate in there.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is that if there is any kind of engineering trickery you can make that you can keep a 50 megapixel sensor, but maybe with 1 micron pixels instead, so that we can actually get, the ability to zoom in at 2x and low light without, like that way you don't need a telephoto.
I have two things that I want.
Two. Only two.
One is crazy. One is probably where I think we'll go, maybe.
Crazy.
The crazy one is I want a Razr with a hinge where they've gone the opposite way. They were like, we scaled up the hinge by 8 times. So we could put in a big ass optical camera sideways, like Nokia did and Samsung with the 940.
Yeah.
I want that. And but we won't get that. So what I want instead is I want this on all phones. I want a giant hyper resolution camera that does a full frame capture and lets me crop how I want. Because, with influencer life, it's annoying. You have to be like, cool, landscape, now portrait, now landscape. Now, I'm tired of doing that. I just want to do one capture for everything.
10 years when all of our displays are also camera sensors, there's no lens anymore. Every pixel can receive light.
Whoa.
And then in software, like, the light camera back in the day.
Yes, yeah.
You can recreate an image. It doesn't matter anymore. You don't even need an under display camera. The camera is your display.
Display is the camera. Crazy. I don't know.
It's going to be a while before that.
Yeah, good.
The other thing they could do is honestly, where that flash is, just put a third camera module. Since the display is so big, why not try that? It might work.
Yeah, agreed.
Or put one over here in the notification area.
I was joking about this, but I'm starting to think that maybe that chin idea was not a bad one. Like, bring back the chin. You get a lot more real estate. It looks cool.
If you look at the Samsung, right? Like, it's got that weird little cutout.
Yeah, it's got the manila file.
Adding a third lens where my finger is right now would just be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and you still have that little area for the notifications, which is good.
Because that area is really not that helpful.
Hey, I have a question.
What?
You ever notice that when you're running full screen apps on the cover display, that you can use the multitasker out here and like shuffle between cards?
Yeah.
But if you open up the phone and go to the multitasker, those apps you had outside don't appear in here. It's almost like the system
weird stuff.
Like the system feels like I think it considers them two different phones. I'd love to know what the architecture is on that. Like, weird.
That's how that's why I like the OnePlus Open and a lot of it really, what you get in the front is what you get. It's like, it's continuity.
But that's true of every full scale phone.
That's right.
It's the flip phones that are weird.
The flip phones are weird.
Yeah. And I want to know there's an Android reason for that. It's probably really easy to understand, but I don't know what it is.
Also, the other thing, we just talked about the display. So the front display is also the same refresh as the main display. So 165 on the Razr Plus and 120 on the Razr Minus. But here's the thing. This is an LTPO as well on the Razr Plus this year.
Heard that.
This is last year, so it's an LTPS. But this guy, very low power consumption, also 1080p wide, which is going to be much easier for porting apps. The height isn't there, but with this 1080p.
Oh, interesting.
So apps are going to be much happier on this display.
Interesting.
Because this is 1056 by 1066.
You're talking about the little guy from last year.
And last year's Plus.
I love that we're talking about a 3 whatever inch screen is a small one.
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, Android came out with a 3.2 inch screen on their G1, and the original iPhone was 3.5 inch, and we thought it was massive. Also, iPhone 5 series was 4 inches. So
now, of course, this is Pythagoras, making tricks with us. But
my point is, think about that for a second. This cover display, even on the last year's model and the smaller phone, are bigger than the original Android.
Well, they're not bigger. They're right.
Well,
it's like
different aspect ratio.
yeah.
But do you remember Moto made that square phone?
They made a couple.
Phone
the Charm
that rotated.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got one. Yeah.
And that was a
Charm.
Charm.
I think so, right?
Charm.
Yeah, with a QWERTY keyboard.
That was essentially the precursor to this.
Absolutely.
With a 320 by 240 pixel display.
Yeah.
Anyway, so look, these phones are great. I think it's a good upgrade. I just wish they hadn't made. I really don't think that. I don't buy their. I'm very skeptical about their messaging around the choice of removing the ultra wide on the Plus. They said, our user data, hopefully anonymous user data, and our whatever is, focus groups or whatever show that the users want, the audience wants a telephoto, wants to do portraits, wants to zoom more than they want to zoom out, zoom in more than zoom out. And I don't believe that for a second.
Also, if you're gonna do it, then do it better than this 2x. Like, how many years have we been saying?
Exactly.
Like,
without OS 2x, like do at least a 3x with OIS. You can still do portraits.
Yeah.
And more importantly, give the main sensor a wider field of view. So even if it's not fully an ultra wide, it has a little bit more.
But I believe the user data. I believe the data that says that the buyer who is most likely to purchase a Razr is also more likely to take portrait shots than not. And I guess the 2x, a real 2x lens in good conditions will probably give you better portraits. We'll try tonight. We're gonna go watch Paris Hilton DJ, right?
Oh my God! Please save me.
I don't know what your problem is. I think that's hot. Personally,
I don't know. I mean, I'm too old for this.
Wait, no, we're not. We're the perfect age for this. Remember, Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton, noted tech scion, carried the Sidekick.
Oh, yeah.
Carried the hot pink one. I think didn't she get sponsored by Motorola to do the hot pink one?
Maybe that's
20
why
years
they're
ago?
having her.
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's like a legit throwback.
Look,
Tech throwback.
I'm terrible. It's probably going to be awesome.
No, I'm going to leave after 10 minutes, but I mean, it's going to be fun. Here's the thing. Last year, can we do a little peek behind the curtain here?
Yeah.
Last year, we didn't really get a heads up about what we should wear to this thing.
Yeah, I know.
And then they threw this Razr 2023 launch event, and we were just surrounded by
Cirque du Soleil was there. That was amazing.
Well, that was really cool. But there were like influencers with like $50,000 gowns and like tuxedos like next to me, and I'm like wearing my schlubby tech bro shit.
Look at me.
I don't know what to do here. I don't belong here. Let's go to a dive bar.
It was something else. And Kim Petras was DJing. Remember?
Yeah.
She was pretty cool, but I kind of felt like she was pretend DJing. Like, no offense to her, but it was like, look, I'm up behind the console. I'm doing my thing.
She only
like I love her music. I think she's pretty talented, but I'm not sure. Like, it's like Paris Hilton DJing. Like, I'm happy to see Paris Hilton. It's the DJing part. I'm like,
I will stay if Paris Hilton is DJing from a Razr, like plugged into some huge apparatus.
It'll be cool.
No, I'll probably stay as long as the drinks stay free. But yeah, let's see. It's good.
It's going to be something.
Disclosure: Motorola is going to give us free drinks today.
Oh, exactly. So there we go. But here's the thing. I think overall, software-wise, lots of cover screen improvements, lots of little tweaks here and there that are making things better. I think the Moto AI was kind of funny to me because it's like a lot of the features are very similar to what Samsung AI and Apple AI have announced. And again, it's not rolling out yet. There's a bit of it in there with the camera and stuff, but
I did like the summary.
Yeah, no. There's always some useful stuff.
Like summarize my notifications. 100%. And it's like, here you go.
But I think it's interesting that everybody's going to have to, Oppo just did their thing, and Poco, when I was in Dubai, they announced their AI stuff, and Samsung did, and Apple did. And it's like everybody's got something AI, right?
Yep. But what's nice is that Gemini actually runs on this now. Remember how Gemini weirdly didn't run on the Razr 2023 for no reason?
I know.
I asked about that too, and I got kind of a nebulous response. I don't know what the deal was with that.
And then we still have all the cool games. The cover screen game.
Nirav and Rich Woods keep trying to make that football game happen. And I'm like, I tried. I have no interest. It's not Stack Bounce. It's never going to be Stack Bounce.
I know Stack Bounce is the one, right?
Do we have Stack Bounce?
Yes,
we do.
Right there.
Thank God. Connect to internet. By the way, stop this. Stop with this.
What do you mean? They have to connect to the internet to play these games?
Yes, because they're Google like Lunchbox or whatever.
Right.
Special toaster or whatever they call these things.
Special toaster.
Yeah. Which is great. They're wonderful little snackable games, but like don't make me connect to the internet to use them.
Soccer game.
It's the free kick football.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not into that.
Me either.
My favorite game? What? It's the one where you have the ball.
Marble Mayhem?
Yeah.
That's fun.
Like I played that for hours in the doctor's office last year on my Razr. So it's great.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I know we don't know what the Flip 6 looks like, but the rumors say the Flip 6 from Samsung will probably look a lot like the Flip 5, which is should be because the Flip 5 was the revolutionary one last year. So given what you know now, do you think you would carry the Razr or the?
Of course, I'd carry the Razr.
Really prefer that?
I was the underdog. I'm going to be on a Pixel Fold or an Open before I'm on a Z Fold. Ever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We have the same disease that way.
I hate to say it because objectively, if you pick up a Z Fold 5, it does everything just fine.
Just fine.
It does. There's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't excite me.
Same.
You know?
Yep, I do. That's because we have corrupted brains that are obsessed with novelty
and
from spending too long in this business.
Sure. It's like, Pavlov, give me my drugs.
It's like, I haven't gotten a new package in like 4 days.
More importantly, there is the aspect of a camera for me is a big deal. And that's why the Open and the Pixel to me deliver on the camera experience.
Yeah.
And I think the Pixel still does deliver the best. I mean, that photo you took of Statue of Liberty in the sunset, like a few days ago, whenever, like, oh my God, like I immediately knew that was a Pixel. And I looked at it, I was like, Pixel.
And I didn't even try. I was just sitting there with a beer in my hand, and I was like, waited for 2 people to like move out of the way, and I was like, here I go.
Done. And you're like,
there it is.
It's like magical.
Google doing the magic.
And you know, even the OnePlus Open, you have to try a little harder. And then the Samsung has a potato camera comparatively.
Yeah.
Like it's a solid camera.
But because their displays are tuned so beautifully, you look at it, you're like, best picture ever.
Great.
And you send it to somebody else. It's like,
you're looking at it on your Mac and you're like, meh. Tell thereof.
Yeah. Well, darling,
Prosecco time. She was on the show last week. He subbed for somebody that unfortunately had a last minute cancellation.
Oh.
Like emergencies happen. But look, the reality is that I think he brought up the word Prosecco in the first minute of the podcast.
Of course.
Somehow.
That's what you do.
Yeah. So anything else that you can think of about these? Like, you're right. Comparing to the competition is really interesting because it looks like Oppo has kind of put the brakes on making any more fold and flips for a bit. Like we're not getting an open replacement.
We haven't gotten a Find N4 or not even any rumors.
Rumors of that. There's no rumors of a flip phone from them. There's rumors of a flip phone from what's it called?
Techno, Honor.
Although they did another one, right?
Well, Honor's got the Magic V flip. That's China.
But Techno's really doing another one, I believe.
Are they?
I don't know.
They had the one with the circular thing like ZTE did.
Correct, ZTE. But ZTE is a low-end phone.
Oh, Xiaomi. Now, Xiaomi could make a gorgeous flip phone. I have not seen this yet. This is not a thing where I'm like pretending not to know. But yeah, it's been heavily rumored. And I understand that they have an event coming up. So I assume they'll launch it.
I think Samsung is going to put almost all their energy behind the Ring, which they announced at San Jose alongside the S24 line.
Yeah.
And you know, they're going to be new watches, new earbuds, the usual. But I think that I'm kind of hoping that they're regrouping for next year. I said that last year too, but I realized it takes a while, right?
It takes
a while.
They've taken a while.
Well, they have all the money in the world.
With the Fold in particular.
And they could really do it.
But they're very conservatively spending right now.
I also don't think they care.
I guess,
they sell more than all of the other folding phones combined.
No, TechAltar reported on this a few weeks ago. Their foldable advantage has collapsed in the past year. Huawei, weirdly, and that market is
China,
huge.
Man.
I mean,
Huawei is huge.
And here in the States, you're like, Huawei. What do you?
What? Yeah, but also you have to realize, like, if you add up Oppo, OnePlus, Xiaomi, all these little players like Techno, blah, blah, blah. Like it eats away at Samsung. You add Moto to that, which is a pretty big
particularly
player.
Since Samsung keeps staying at that high price point.
Yeah.
And everyone else is coming in kind of under them.
I mean, you could buy a OnePlus Open for $599 last week for a bit there.
What?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
$599 for OnePlus Open?
That doesn't bode well for
$100 less than that.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful foldable. Like that's a great product.
It's a great product.
I'm so terrified they won't make a second one.
They will.
I hope they do.
They will, but I think Pete Lau is a lot more conservative than Calpe was. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, look, we didn't sell that many. Realistically, when is the last time you saw an open in the wild? It was all us.
Yeah, I've never seen it open in the wild.
You know what?
I see the Samsungs all the time.
Actually, let's talk about that because I see more in the Bay Area. I see more Pixels than I see Samsungs. Like I see iPhones number one.
Okay, yeah.
By like a vast majority.
Of course, same here.
And then I see Pixels.
Yeah, I see Pixels a lot.
And then I see Samsung.
No, normally
nothing else.
My argument would be that the Pixel is very distinctive, so it draws the eye more. But we're phone nerds; we see every phone that everyone is carrying, and it's always an iPhone. But I agree, the Pixel is very popular. But I have been really heartened over the past few years by how often I see foldables, and they're always Samsung ones, but I see them quite often. So yeah, that's good here in New York, anyway.
I mean, if I see a foldable in the wild, it's generally a Samsung. That is true.
Have you ever seen a Razr?
No.
Never mind.
Sad.
It is a bummer. Everyone loves it, though. We've talked about this. It's always the same conversation. Is that the new Razr? I loved my Razr. I would love to have that. But I would never get over my iPhone.
That's right.
I would never leave my iPhone.
But I'll get an iPhone.
But oh man, yeah.
Of course,
Well, the families, and my AirPods. Yeah, I understand. Thank you. We're strangers. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. And better yet, like I also get it. Like and that's why I don't understand why Apple doesn't make a flip phone. Like a folding flip would be perfect for Apple.
I mean, you just said it about Samsung. They don't have to print money without it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Thank goodness there's still variety in the world.
Well, that's why when you're going back to what you asked me, like, would you like with the Z Flip 6 looming?
Yeah.
No, like I'm not even. Like
Yeah.
I'll review it.
Right.
It'll be good. Hopefully, at least they bump up the cameras, which right now the rumors say they didn't. So, if they did that, I'd be more on board. But it looks like it's just going to be okay. Let's slap a stopper and an 8 Gen 3 in there, or that's it because the Gen 4 is not out.
Yeah,
and that's it. And who cares?
Fair enough. Yeah, this Motorola is like
One UI 27. Whatever.
And I gave Motorola, and I continue to give Motorola some trash for just being like, you kind of just made a minimalist box design like everybody else. And I'm still bummed about that. But at least they were like, look, we're going to own that decision. And it seems to have paid off well for them. What are the numbers they shared? They were like 100% increase in like Razr sales, which by the way, compared to the Razr 22, you're like, well, yeah.
but the attention to detail here, things like the rounded edges, so it's easier to open.
They've done a great job.
The fact that the front screen now has about the same amount of bezel as the main screen.
Right.
Like, wow.
No, they've really they've made it as good as as
the
good as it's
pod,
possible,
even though it's kind of thick.
Yes,
but it's really well done. It looks right.
Stands proud of the case.
That hinge.
Yeah,
hinge
is fantastic. So they've put a lot of thought into that stuff, and they've put a lot of thought into the software. So it's not like they're just cranking this out. Like it doesn't feel like an iterative improvement. Frankly, like the way I expected it to. I expected this to be like, it's just last year's. But they didn't.
See,
they really
there's another
put
reason
a lot of thought in.
You went back to the Pixel Fold, and you're still carrying a Razr. Or you would carry a Razr over a competition.
Brain dead
is
contrarian,
because the software.
Well,
the software is more stock.
Oh, yeah.
And the features are valuable. Like the chop for flashlight, the wrist for camera.
The little double tap, which they've redone.
On Pixel, you've got all the call screening features.
Yo, they brought back Approach.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So you remember like back in the first Moto X launched, you could like reach for it and it would be like, hi, I see you. And it would wake up before you got there. Like they brought that back. I don't know how they're doing it, whether it's ultrasonic or with the display, but you can reach for the phone and it'll wake up. It's
probably the proximity sensor.
Maybe. Well, but there's no proximity sensor up on the front, right?
It's probably in there somewhere.
Maybe.
Like right now they can make them so thin it can be right in the edge here.
That's crazy.
Like a lot, like on Poco phones, it's literally pointing that way. Like
really?
Yeah. So I don't know. It's probably in there somewhere.
And I like that. And like the more you play with it, the more you realize like, oh yeah, you've taken the old Moto X notification thing and refined it further. You got these little bubbles on the lock screen. You can it's like
the detail. It's like when you start using the Pixel, no matter which Pixel, and you go like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
All these features I forgot about.
Yes.
And then you never see anything like that on Samsung. You never see anything like that on even the iPhone. You're like, meh.
They do set like they bring out plenty of features. Samsung is always packed and full of features, but it just doesn't resonate as much with me.
It's not as thoughtful.
Maybe it's just thoughtful in a different way, but it's a way that doesn't resonate with me as much. That's all I'll say. Like I'm not going to sit here and say like, wow, Samsung's worse for everyone.
No,
but like for me, I like the thought that the intentionality that goes into a Motorola take on Android or a Pixel take on Android more than I do like
Yeah,
I think it's mostly about the squircles, really.
Ultimately, it's all about squircles. That's the way to end the show.
There you go.
I just wanted to let the audience know that because we're recording this on a Tuesday, because the event just happened, and lots of more news are going to happen the rest of the week. So I will catch up on all this news next show. So stay tuned for that, obviously. But Michael, thanks for being on the show. It was really great.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell folks, all your social media channels, your YouTube channel, all that good stuff? Where can they find your thoughts on this?
On this, I'm tweeting about it and threading about it at Captain Two Phones, Captain the number 2 phones. And I post on YouTube regularly at the Mr. Mobile, TheMrMobile.
So we can expect a hands-on video?
No, not a hands-on. I'm going to hold for the full review.
Full review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might even do a couple because I think the little one.
You're going to separate
calling
them?
it the little one. I think the minus like
baby Razr and daddy Razr.
Yeah. Well, what's nice is separating them allows me to talk about the Razr for longer, which I prefer to do, versus like what else is going. Well, I mean, there's a lot coming up. I don't know.
Oh, it's insane.
Well, yeah,
I've already given up.
Yeah.
So YouTube, check out
again.
Michael on YouTube.
Yeah.
Mr. Mobile and Captain Two Phones on social.
You got it.
And you know where to find me, folks. I'm at Tankrl, TNKGRL, like the comic book character, drop all the vowels. That's my handle on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, everywhere basically. And so if you want to discuss this, find us on the social, discuss. I'll have some social media content around the phone with some photo samples and the phones. They're pretty. So check out my social this week. Also, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com on all the major platforms. So please subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe and all that stuff. There's a Patreon. I've kind of mentioned it throughout the show. You can get a video version of the podcast on Patreon, patreon.com/tankgirl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. $5 a month buys you every week an episode on video. You get it the day before, and you get to see us brandish phones and in person and our faces and our expressions and all that good stuff. So, it's pretty awesome. Brandish is a great word.
Brandish is a great word.
I know. And so, Patreon, help me out if you can. If you don't like Patreon, you can donate through PayPal. There's a link in the show notes. You can click through and buy me a coffee or something like that.
You should do a stinger on Patreon.
I should.
You should do a stinger with one final question, because I have one final question for you.
All right. What is it?
Would you give up a physical SIM tray for a third camera on the Razr? Would you go eSIM only for a
Grumpy question. I don't know. No. I'd have to think about it.
No,
probably not. But anyway.
Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
I'm sorry. I derailed you.
That's really disturbing.
I think you would.
I want to thank our sponsor, Infineon. Infineon is a global semiconductor leader in power systems and IoT, and is committed to driving decarbonization and digitalization together with its ecosystem partners. And Michael, thanks again for being my guest this week. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Miriam. Great times as always.
Yeah, especially getting all your awesome insights on the foldy folds.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Hot foldable summer, take 2.
That's right. All right, folks, stay tuned for next week. We'll have another show, of course. And until then, cheers, everybody.